When I was in first grade, my friend Xiaohui was found dead in a foul-smelling ditch, without a stitch of clothing on her. After an investigation, the culprit was identified as Zhao, a simple-minded man from our village. My father, fearing my grief, moved me to another province that very night. 12 years later, due to university entrance exam policies, I had to return to our long-abandoned old village. Xiaohui's mother saw me and screamed hysterically, "Xiaohui! Xiaohui!" Zhao, having been released from prison, saw me and smiled, waving his hand. "Xiaohui! Xiaohui!" Old man Su, the village chief's father, over 90 years old, collapsed at the sight of me, muttering, "Xiaohui! Xiaohui, my best friend, Zhang Xiaohui, died in the summer of 2011. I was only in first grade then, still too young to understand the meaning of life and death. I saw Xiaohui, who was always beautiful and clean, lying in a stinking ditch, and naively asked the adults, "Why is she sleeping here? Is she cold? Where's her dress?" No one answered me. They were busy retrieving her body and notifying her family. Only Zhao, emerging from somewhere, wandered over and tugged at me, asking, "Where's Xiaohui? Where is she?" I shoved his hand away, stepping back 2 paces, an indescribable irritation welling up inside me. "What business is it of yours?" Xiaohui's birthday and mine were only 2 days apart, and our preferences were coincidentally similar. We were always inseparable, as close as actual twin sisters, even liking to wear identical clothes. For example, if she bought a light yellow dress at the town market, the next day I would insist my mother buy me an identical one. Furthermore, our height and hairstyles were similar. Many people with poor eyesight often mistook us for each other. Zhao was an exception. Although he was somewhat simple-minded, he never once mistook us. I heard that Zhao wasn't born foolish. He suffered a high fever at age 4, and his family didn't get him urgent medical care in time, which led to his dullness. He had never attended school, spending his days wandering the village, doing nothing. If he liked something, he'd immediately grab it. If not given, he'd steal it. Everyone in the village hated him, and even his parents gradually lost all affection for their son, day after day, filled with disappointment. If anyone came looking for him, they'd pull out a rattan cane and beat him mercilessly, too lazy to even bother finding out the truth. Therefore, when the police concluded their investigation and identified Zhao as the culprit, his parents quickly accepted the outcome, decisively tying him up and taking him to the village gate, leaving him to others' mercy. The onlookers pointed fingers, and Xiaohui's mother was so heartbroken she nearly fainted. Zhao still didn't understand what was happening, just gazed around like a bewildered goose. His mouth still called out, "Xiaohui! Xiaohui!" I hid behind my mother. Through a gap in the crowd, I saw Xiaohui's father kick Zhao, sending him sprawling to the ground. He roared in fury, his eyes bloodshot like a lion's. "How dare you? How dare you? I'll beat you to death, you beast!" Zhao's parents' lips trembled, but they said nothing, turning their backs to wipe away tears. Zhao clutched his head, tears mixing with snot, begging for forgiveness unconsciously. "Don't hit me. I was wrong." Not a soul pitied him. Everyone angrily cursed him as an animal. The village chief's son even shouted loudly, demanding he be imprisoned for life. Amidst the chaos, a young cicada larva crawled out of Zhao's pocket, made its way through the crowd, then stopped in front of me. This was my last memory of my hometown 12 years ago. After Xiaohui's death, I suffered from insomnia for a long time. Every time I drifted off to sleep, I'd see her, her face swollen from soaking in dirty water, smiling and waving at me. "Hurry, Qing. Let's go play." She wouldn't wait for me to refuse, pulling me down with her to sink into the foul-smelling ditch where she died. The black, stinking water immediately filled my mouth and nose. I tried to endure the intense pain. I opened my eyes. Mud clung tightly to my eyelids. Through it, the gray-blue sky twisted into a devil's face. The intense sensation of suffocation made me thrash uncontrollably. As I neared death, my mother shook me awake, her face full of worry. "Qing Qing, Qing Qing, what's wrong?" I was still terrified. "Mom, I saw Xiaohui. She told me to play with her." My mother patted my back. "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It was just a dream, child." But when the nightmare repeated for several days, my parents finally started to pay attention. They packed our belongings and moved us that very night. They believed I was too grief-stricken and a change of environment would be better. On the train, watching the scenery flash by, I softly asked, "Mom, did Xiaohui?" Although everything had been decided, I still felt something strange. Although Zhao often committed petty thefts, he had never dared to lay a hand on anyone. Moreover, Xiaohui was a beautiful and kind girl. Almost everyone, including me, disliked Zhao, but she alone retained a glimmer of compassion. Not only did she not throw stones like the other children, but she also actively shared her meager snacks with him. I racked my brain, but couldn't understand why Zhao would kill her. Nah. My mother sighed. "Qing Qing, you're still young. There are some things you don't understand. Everything is in the past now. Don't think about it anymore." I could only nod, silently bidding farewell to my best friend in my heart. After moving to our new home, my mother feared I would have nightmares, so she bought a pile of copper coins, wooden swords, and similar items from somewhere, filling my room with them. Perhaps it was a psychological effect, but I truly stopped having nightmares. 12 years flew by, and in the blink of an eye, I was in my final year of high school. Due to university entrance exam policies, I needed to return to my registered household location to take the exams. The night before I left, I heard my parents whispering in their bedroom, "Is it really okay to go back there? It's been so long, it should be fine. Are you worried?" The latter part of the conversation was too soft for me to hear clearly. In my mind, the face of a 6-year-old girl gradually appeared. Her face was blurry and indistinct. Only the color of that light yellow dress remained as bright as ever. Returning to the old village, which I had been separated from for so long, the road at the village entrance was just as I remembered. With a group of people gathered, chatting, I adjusted my dress, then stepped out of the car with my parents. A woman with white hair and a face full of wrinkles suddenly grabbed me. "Xiaohui! Xiaohui!" I was startled, then realized upon closer inspection that this was Xiaohui's mother. "My Xiaohui is back!" She sobbed uncontrollably. snot and tears streaming down her face, embracing me tightly. Someone casually joked, Aunt Zhang, "Your daughter died long ago. This is Qing." But she didn't listen, her hands still desperately clutching the hem of my dress. "This is my daughter. This is my daughter. This is my daughter. Look at this yellow dress. I bought it for her with my own hands. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She's having another episode." An old-looking man quickly came to pull her away. He saw me and suddenly froze. "Qing Qing is back?" I nodded, feeling incredibly surprised. Xiaohui's father and my father were roughly the same age. But now, standing side by side, they looked like two generations. Perhaps the pain of losing a child over the years had driven one to madness and the other to age dramatically, like an old man. He choked up, his eyes quickly welling with tears. If Xiaohui were still alive, she'd probably be as tall as you now. The mention of Xiaohui immediately made the atmosphere heavy. Only a strange, incoherent mumble echoed jarringly out of place. I followed the sound, and to my surprise, it was Zhao. He had been sentenced to 10 years that year, so he must have been out of prison for 2 years already. He seemed even more foolish than before. I remembered that as a child, he never mistook me for Xiaohui. But now he was smiling and waving at me. Xiaohui, Xiaohui. He was the culprit, so of course I couldn't engage with him. Moreover, Xiaohui's mother's hands were still clutching mine tightly. My mother gently comforted her, tried to pry her hands off, then pushed me forward. "Qing Qing, there's nothing for you here. Go home first." I obediently nodded and walked through the crowd towards home. As I passed a large locust tree, an old man with white hair sat beneath it. This was old Manchu, the village chief's father. When I left, he had just celebrated his 80th birthday. This year, he must be 92. As a child, he always confused me with his Xiaohui. Now, seeing me, he was even more startled. "Who are you? Who are you?" Before I could answer, I saw his neck stiffen, and he fell to the ground, still muttering, "Xiaohui! Xiaohui! That girl is back." Several people rushed to give him first aid, rubbing his filth. I stood still, feeling a bit awkward. I hadn't expected so many things to happen. On my first day back, I quickly pulled my suitcase and walked home. It wasn't until I reached my gate that I realized Zhao had been following me. I frowned in annoyance. "Why are you following me?" Over the years, he must have lived a miserable life. Before, no matter what, his parents wouldn't let him go without food or clothing. And his clothes would be changed every few days. Not like now, skinny as a stick, his clothes ragged and torn, looking like they hadn't been washed in hundreds of years, emitting a strong stench even from a distance. Zhao, seeing my disgust, retreated a bit. His hands anxiously rubbed his clothes. "Xiaohui, don't be scared. Scared of Xiaohui's vengeful spirit, coming to claim my life." I let out a cold scoff and slammed the door shut. Having not returned for over a decade, the dust in the house had accumulated into a thick layer. After I painstakingly cleaned everything, it was already dusk. My parents hadn't returned yet, and with nothing to do, I decided to take a stroll around the village. As soon as I opened the door, I was startled by a figure curled up outside. "Why are you still here?" I patted my chest. Zhao scratched his head. "Xiaohui, shut up!" I glared at him, not wanting to hear the name Xiaohui from his mouth. He understood and closed his mouth. I couldn't help but ask, "Are you hungry?" He lowered his head, fidgeting with his shirts. "Hungry." "If you're hungry, go home and eat," I shouted, making him tremble violently. I shouted, making him... He stammered, "I'm scared, scared you'll get hurt. You bringer of bad luck." "I'm a normal person. What could happen to me?" He didn't understand, stubbornly following me. I tried to chase him away several times to no avail, so I gave up. On the road, I encountered a man wearing glasses who looked refined. "Are you Jiang Qing?" I tilted my head, studying him for a long time, then hesitantly asked, "Xiaohui?" It's been a long time. Xu Ning was the village chief's son, a year older than me, intelligent, with excellent grades, the legendary child of other people's families. It's just that he was born with poor eyesight, always wore thick Coke bottle glasses, and due to his short stature and poor communication skills, he was nicknamed Bookworm. When I was young and didn't know better, I think I called him that a few times. Remembering the past, I felt a little embarrassed. "So it's you. I almost didn't recognize you. But I recognized you right away." He smiled, composed and calm. "When I was little, I didn't know better, and called you by that nickname. I'm so embarrassed." The smile on his face stiffened, and he looked at me strangely. "Oh, what's wrong?" Xu Ning shook his head. "Why bring up old things?" "Oh, I heard you'll be taking your university exams here." "That's right. The curriculum here might be different from outside. My cousin has some 12th grade books and materials. Come to my house to get them when you're free." "Thank you." I looked around, but when I turned back, Zhao was nowhere to be seen. I didn't know when he had left. That's good. I felt more at ease. I wandered everywhere. Eventually arriving at the place where Xiaohui died, I knelt down and looked at the dry, foul-smelling ditch. Suddenly, my childhood dream flashed in my mind. In the dream, just like Xiaohui, I was buried in this thick mud. As I was deep in thought, my sleeve was tugged. Zhao reappeared like a ghost, anxiously pulling my sleeve. "Careful. I froze. I won't fall." The black mud on his face was washed away by sudden tears, forming two streaks. "He's wrong. They want you dead here. Don't get close to the ditch," he stammered. I generally understood what he meant. He thought I was Xiaohui, so he didn't want me near the ditch. "Who killed her?" Zhao shook his head frantically, too anxious to speak. "No, not me. Not me. You want to eat." He was too agitated, accidentally missed his step, and fell into the ditch. The ditch wasn't deep, but the mud at the bottom tangled his feet. Without help, it would be difficult to get out. He might even be buried there with Xiaohui. What if he wasn't the culprit? I hesitated for a moment, then picked up a piece of wood nearby and extended it to him. Grab it. I pulled him up. He obediently grabbed the stick. I quickly pulled his arm tightly. As I pulled him up, I accidentally touched his chest. The unexpected softness felt like a bolt of lightning, freezing me in place. Could he be a girl? I reassessed Zhao. Even with a thick layer of mud covering his face, it was difficult to conceal his delicate features. I always thought he was dirty all day because his family neglected him, but I hadn't expected it was to hide his increasingly prominent feminine characteristics. However, when Xiaohui died, her body was unclothed, clearly resembling a crime committed by a man. Did the police arrest the wrong person? Or is there another hidden secret here? My whole body stiffened. I walked towards Xiaohui's house. At the door, I turned and walked towards Zhao's house instead. Xiaohui's mother was pitiful enough. I shouldn't make her recall painful memories. Besides her, someone else must know the truth. For example, Zhao's parents. Others might not know if Xiao was male or female, but his biological parents couldn't possibly not know. I was too impatient to beat around the bush and ask directly, "Is Xiao a girl?" Aunt Zhao was stunned, stammering, unable to speak. I already saw. She immediately jumped up, anxiously closing the door. "Have you told anyone else?" I shook my head. "No. I just want to ask you, is she really the murderer who killed Xiaohui?" She lowered her head, not daring to look me in the eye. "Isn't it? The police have already convicted her, haven't they? They went to prison and served their punishment." "You're talking nonsense. When Xiaohui was pulled out, she wasn't wearing clothes. She was clearly assaulted and then murdered by a man." Aunt Zhao suddenly looked up. Seeing isn't always believing. My foolish child admitted it. She said she liked Xiaohui's dress, so she snatched her clothes. During the struggle, she accidentally pushed her into the ditch. Our father and daughter have already confessed. What more do you want? I clenched my fists. I don't want anything. I just want the truth. That is the truth. She said it firmly, but my sixth sense told me the matter was definitely not that simple. I also had an identical dress to Xiaohui's. If Zhao liked it, why didn't she come and snatch mine? That evening, I told my parents about my discoveries today, but they sternly told me not to investigate these matters anymore. With less than a month left until the university exams, they told me to focus on my studies. I returned to my room dejectedly. In the middle of the night, after a long time without dreaming, I had a dream again. In the dream, it was still 12 years ago when I was in first grade, and Xiaohui hadn't met her unfortunate end yet. We styled our hair the same way and wore identical light yellow dresses, like two true inseparable twin sisters. After the school bell rang, we walked home, hand in hand. We knelt at the small wooden table in our old house, facing each other, meticulously doing our homework. As we were writing, my mother suddenly came from the kitchen. "Oh, Ching Ching, don't write so fast. Help Mom take this piece of meat to your grandmother." I looked up from my textbook and reluctantly mumbled, "No, Don't you see I'm doing my homework? You can do it later. Go quickly. Your grandmother has been asking for days. Why don't you go yourself? Mom's cooking in the kitchen. I still didn't want to go. The me in the dream hated going out. I thought perhaps it was because Grandma's house was very close to Zhao's house. Every time I went there, 9 out of 10 times, I would run into Zhao. She was 5 or 6 years older than me and had even snatched my candied hawthorns and biscuits. I found her annoying, especially since today I was wearing my favorite dress. What if Zhao snatched my dress? Thinking of this, I found an excuse. Mom, my stomach hurts. Every time I ask you to do something, your stomach hurts. Do you think Mom doesn't know you're pretending? No, my stomach really hurts. I clutched my stomach, my face crestfallen. It really looked that way. My mother hesitated. At this moment, Xiaohui, who had been silent, suddenly stood up. Auntie, let me take it. It's getting late anyway. I should go home now. It's on my way. My mother skexed in admiration. Look at Xiaohui. How well behaved she is. Look at yourself. Ching Ching and I are good friends. Her business is my business. My mother put the bag in her hand and also slipped 2 candies into her palm. Thank you then. You're welcome. I'll be going now. She packed her school bag and waved at me. Goodbye, Jiang Qing. Watching her skipping figure, I suddenly had a bad premonition. It felt as if in the next second she would vanish. I stood still, terrified, and screamed with all might, Xiaohui! I suddenly opened my eyes wide. Unexpectedly, that loud scream had directly woken me up. I wiped the sweat from my forehead. The scene in the dream was still vivid, as clear as if it had happened yesterday. I suddenly remembered this seemed to be the scene from the day before Xiaohui died. I died. That night was the last time we saw each other. What happened after that? Did she deliver the meat to Grandma's house? And how did she end up in that foul-smelling ditch? My memories, eroded by the long years, had become hazy. I couldn't remember anything. I rubbed my forehead and got up to pour myself a glass of water. It was already morning. My mother was busy in the kitchen. I washed my face, waited for her to set breakfast on the table, then casually asked, Mom, do you remember? The day before Xiaohui died, she was still at our house doing homework with me. My mother narrowed her eyes, recalling. Oh, I think so. I even gave her 2 candies. Yes, that's right. Her eyes gradually cleared. I told you to take the meat to your grandmother, and you even pretended to be sick. I followed her words and asked, so, did Grandma finally get the meat? Of course. Your grandmother even praised Xiaohui for being well-behaved and more considerate than her own granddaughter like you. Hitty-pee. In other words, she didn't encounter any accident on her way to Grandma's house. It wasn't because of me. My tense heart relaxed a little. My mother sighed. Xiaohui was a good child. Such a good child whose life hadn't even had a chance to blossom was plucked and uprooted. Even now, the person who killed her hasn't been found. I stood alone by the rice paddies, lost in thought. This used to be Xiaohui's and my secret base. But now, it was just me. I wanted to do something for her, but I couldn't do anything. Just then, a voice called out in my ear. Jiang Qing, someone was calling me. I turned around. It was Shuning. He carried a basket in his left hand and a hoe in his right. Are you digging wild vegetables? No. Yesterday, old man Su's myocardial infarction recurred. My father told me to pick some herbs. In the past, the village chief was a barefoot doctor who had some knowledge of herbal medicine. Normally, for headaches or colds, he liked to dig some herbs himself. When I was little, their family was also like this. I hadn't expected that after 12 years, even though the village had escaped poverty, they still maintained their old habits. Oh, right. I've organized all those books. Remember to come to my house to get them when you're free. Okay, thank you. Is your grandfather doing okay? I remembered his grandfather seemed to have fainted at the sight of me. He must have mistaken me for Xiaohui, thinking I was a vengeful spirit, claiming my life. But immediately after, I couldn't smile, because a problem suddenly struck me. The day I returned, the people who were extremely emotional were Xiaohui's parents, Zhao, and the village chief's father. They all mistook me for Xiaohui. The first two were easy to understand. They were all connected to Xiaohui. But why was the village chief's father so emotional? Moreover, from his appearance he was clearly terrified. Old people often have skeletons in their closets and fear ghosts knocking on their doors. So what secrets did he have? Wow, what are you thinking? Shuning waved his hand in front of my face. My thoughts were pulled back, and I forced a smile. Nothing. I just remembered. I have something to do at home. I'll head back first. Every noon, the old folks in the village liked to bask in the sun. I looked carefully and didn't see old man Su. Perhaps his health hadn't recovered, or maybe he had a guilty conscience. The next day, I used the excuse of getting books to go to the village chief's house. The village chief wasn't home. Shuning enthusiastically invited me into the living room and told me to sit down. After pouring me a glass of water, he went to get the books. I noticed that when I entered, the old, cloudy eyes of the village chief's father suddenly opened wide, and his body trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. I pretended to be surprised. Old man Su, what's wrong? He coughed violently a few times, then stared at me, his withered hands clutching the armrest. Who are you? I pursed my lips and smiled. Don't you recognize me? I'm Xiaohui. As the two words Xiaohui left my lips, I sharply felt his breathing quicken. Didn't Xiaohui die? Who told you that? Or are you dreaming? No. No way. I saw it with my own eyes. If I remembered correctly, when Xiaohui's body was discovered, he wasn't at the scene. When the police came to investigate, he was still sick and had been home for several days. So how did he see it with his own eyes? There must be something suspicious. What did you see with your own eyes? He narrowed his eyes, trying to recall. I saw her come to my house wearing a yellow dress. That's right. Exactly like the dress you're wearing today. My heart thumped, as if about to discover the most brutal truth. However, old man Su suddenly became lucid again. No, that's not right. You're not Xiaohui. She wasn't as tall as you. He gestured with his hands. Only this tall. Only this tall. I was disappointed, but his next sentence left me stunned. He said, however, even though she wasn't tall. She was a girl after all. When he said this, a satisfied and chilling smile appeared on his wrinkled face, as if he were seeing the face of hell right here on earth. I felt goosebumps all over my body. For a moment, I was so shocked by fear that my mind went blank, even forgetting what to say next. I could only hear him describe what happened then, with a triumphant air. Youth is truly good. Her skin was much smoother than an old man like me, and her crying and pleading looked truly pathetic. The truth that I thought would be so hard to uncover was casually spoken by him. An indescribable nausea started to spread from my stomach throughout my body. I really couldn't bear it, so I crouched down and dry heaved on the ground. Old Man Su, seeing my reaction, narrowed his eyes in satisfaction, grinning with his decaying teeth. What's wrong? You can't even stand hearing that? It was all her choice. Her choice, my ass! I grabbed the water glass from the table and threw it straight at him. His forehead immediately swelled red. His old, cloudy eyes instantly filled with ferocity. How dare you hit me with a glass? If it weren't for your father's face, do you think I'd spare you? When the village chief first took office, he was once stabbed by someone due to a personal vendetta. At that time, my father happened to pass by and carried him to the hospital. Before Xiaohui's incident, the relationship between our family and the village chief's family had always been quite good. I never expected the village chief's father to be such a devil. The old villain scoffed. If it weren't for my father, your son would have died long ago. A beast like you wouldn't have lived peacefully until now. Perhaps he had never been directly cursed at like this. His face turned beet red like a pig's liver. Did your dog eat all your upbringing? How dare you speak to an elder like that? My upbringing is only for people, not for animals. Old Man Su was so enraged his chest heaved violently. He kept patting his chest to calm himself. I stood up. Don't worry. I will definitely tell the police everything. I'm not afraid of the police knowing the truth. So what? I'm almost in my grave anyway. I'd like to see who dares to arrest me. You old beast! I suddenly stood up. If you're really not afraid, then why did you faint the first day you saw me? If I didn't do that, how would I lure you here? What do you mean? The alarm bells in my head rang violently. It means I've told you so much in return. Shouldn't you help me a little? Or I'll give you money. Old man here has money. Damn you! My eyes turned red with fury, wishing I could rush forward and strangle him. Outside the main gate, there was a sudden rapid knocking. Boom! Boom! Ah! Accompanied by Zhao's voice. Xiaohui! Xiaohui! I glared fiercely at the old beast and walked towards the main gate. Outside the door, Zhao was anxious. She saw me and immediately pulled me outside. Go! Go quickly! Why are you here? Protect Xiaohui. From the first day I returned to the village, when she mistook me for a Xiaohui, she had always been watching. Before, no matter where I went, she wouldn't stop me. Only when I came to the village chief's house did she show an abnormality. My steps slowed. Do you know something? Zhao didn't know how to lie, only staring at me innocently. I thought for a moment and changed my question. Why do you want to protect me? Danger. I pointed towards the village chief's house. You're saying it's very dangerous there? She nodded frantically. Zhang Xiaohui, that is, I have been there before. She continued to nod. Do you remember the last time you went there? She tilted her head, looking troubled. Of course, this question was too difficult for her. But just when I thought she wouldn't answer, she said, catch cicada larvae. Xiaohui changed meat for them. After catching them, Xiaohui was gone. Her speech was stammering, her tone chaotic. I immediately understood. Zhao added, hand meat is gone. I saw Xiaohui. Go, I followed. Meat! A flash of insight hit me. 12 years ago. The day before Xiaohui died because I feigned sickness, she kindly helped me deliver meat to Grandma's house. According to my mother, Grandma ate that meat. So, at that time, she definitely hadn't met with misfortune yet. And Zhao's house was right next to my grandmother's house. She must have seen that scene, which is why she mentioned the meat. Given Zhao's personality, if she saw delicious food, she would definitely ask for it. Catch, cicada larvae. Xiaohui, exchange meat for them. After catching them, Xiaohui was gone. This sentence probably meant she wanted the meat in Xiaohui's hand. Xiaohui told her to catch cicada larvae in exchange. At that time, catching cicada larvae could be sold for money. As long as she caught enough, exchanging them for meat was not a problem. Zhao obediently went to catch them. After catching them, she found that Xiaohui had left Grandma's house, her hands empty. Hand meat is gone. I saw Xiaohui. Go. I followed. She saw Xiaohui walking forward and followed her. My brain worked at lightning speed. And then Zhao frowned, pointed at the village chief's house. Dangerous, gone, dead. This sentence was very easy to understand. Xiaohui went to the village chief's house, then encountered danger and died. I followed Zhao home. Aunt Zhao asked, why are you here again? Last time, I already made it clear to you. The punishment they were supposed to receive, they already received. What more do you want? But those who should have been punished are still living comfortably. I opened my phone and played the secretly recorded audio from the village chief's house for her to hear. Auntie, look, the perpetrator is so openly despicable, yet you all secretly live your days. Don't you want to clear your daughter's name? Her expression fluctuated for a moment, then returned to calm. What good would that do? I don't have the means like your parents to just move away. Our family has one fool and one sickly person. We all rely on a few acres of land to make a living. In this village, the village chief's words are more powerful than imperial decrees. If we offend him, how can we survive? It's not like that anymore, Auntie. Now with the development of social media, as long as we speak the truth and find the media to expand our influence, I believe the law will definitely give us justice. You're too young, she gave a bitter laugh. You've been back for a few days and already know the truth. Guess how many people in the village know the truth? I immediately froze. They all know, but no one cares. No one dares to care. The village chief's brother-in-law was the person in charge of this case at the police station. That year, he personally came to her house, promising that as long as they kept silent, they would be given a sum of money and help conceal the gender of their foolish daughter. You know, in our village and the neighboring villages, there are many elderly men who can't find wives. Our foolish child is safer in prison than wandering outside. We are sorry to Xiaohui, but we had no other choice. Going to prison is atonement for not being able to tell the truth. She said it miserably. I could understand, but I truly couldn't accept it. Is there really no other way? Aunt Zhao looked dejected. No other way. If there were, Xiaohui's mother wouldn't have gone insane. Next, she told me what happened after I left. For the first 2 years, only the village chief's family and Aunt Zhao's family knew the truth. Xiaohui's parents also thought Zhao was responsible and often picked fights with them every few days. One day, after more than a year, there was a wedding in the village. Old man Su, indulging in food and drink, accidentally let something slip. It was then that everyone realized the culprit was not Zhao, but the old man who was over 80 years old. Xiaohui's father, in a fit of rage, went to report it to the police. However, the person who came to handle it was the village chief's brother-in-law, who naturally sided with them. Xiaohui's father didn't give up and started learning how to file complaints. But they hardly knew any words, and the path of complaining was truly fraught with difficulties. Fortunately, heaven didn't disappoint them. The matter gained the attention of city leaders. It's just that too much time had passed. There wasn't enough evidence. Plus, old man Shu insisted he was an old dotard who spoke nonsense while drunk. In the end, the case went nowhere. In fact, even if evidence was found, it would be useless. The culprit was 82 years old, suffering from various chronic and age-related diseases. No matter how clear the evidence, the police couldn't do anything to him. Imprisoning him would mean serving him meals and drinks. Xiaohui's mother, having poured all her love into it, but unable to get justice for her daughter, couldn't bear the torment in her heart and gradually lost her mind. The village chief, for his reputation, compensated them with a sum of money and promised to cover all of her treatment costs. Xiaohui's father had no other choice but to accept the money to treat his wife, and at the same time signed an agreement not to pursue the matter further. You see, even the victim's family isn't saying anything anymore. So what can we say? Aunt Zhao wiped the corners of her eyes. Ching ching. Everything I've told you is the truth. Ordinary people like us really can't endure anymore. I silently stood up and walked out. Sometimes the truth is more cruel than imagination. No wonder old man Shu could casually tell me the truth. In his condition, even if he were to be prosecuted, he would probably die before a verdict was reached. He was already a man with one foot in the grave, living on borrowed time. He didn't care about dying sooner or later. Yes, everything just going to end like this? No, it can't. Such a disgusting person, living one more day is a waste. Xiaohui cannot have died in vain. I took out my phone and checked the weather forecast. Excellent today. Was a beautiful, sunny day. The moonlight tonight should be very bright. The village chief's house was a 3-story building. Since old man Shu was old and had difficulty moving around, he stayed in a single-story annex on the first floor. The moonlight could cast shadows of trees through the window. He once said he was afraid of vengeful spirits claiming his life. So tonight, let's see if that's true or false. I took out the light yellow dress I had carefully stored at the bottom of my trunk. In the morning, the distant wail of police sirens approaching woke me. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and asked, "Mom, Dad, what's that sound outside?" The village chief's father passed away. I heard he died during the night. Who knows what he saw when he died? His eyes were wide open and he soiled himself. I curled the corners of my lips. Really? It seems someone with a guilty conscience isn't as brave as they seem. I slowly got up to do my personal hygiene. The lump in my throat that had been there for so many years suddenly dissolved, and even my appetite improved. After eating, I went to the village chief's house. I heard he died, and several people fainted. I went to check it out. I went to check it out. In this story, besides those caught in the vortex of events, there was another person I despise. While his father committed such vile acts, he concealed the truth, deceiving both superiors and subordinates, making him as disgusting as the perpetrator. Seeing his suffering, I only prayed for it to be worse. However, by the time I arrived, the village chief had regained consciousness. Their house was chaotic, with many people gathered, cleaning up old man Sue's belongings. I walked around twice, finding it boring, so I slipped into other rooms. It was filled with books and study material. I casually picked up a few books. They were 12th grade textbooks. Su Ning had said he would give me these. It had been so long for nothing. Even when Zhao led me away, I didn't see any trace of him. The noise outside gradually subsided. Everyone went to the main gate. I vaguely heard comforting words, like my condolences, and may the funeral be peaceful. I shook my head, ignoring them. I set aside the book I was holding and looked to see if there was anything else useful. When I turned to another box at the bottom, I saw a familiar light yellow stain. I picked it up and opened it. This was a dress for a 6-year-old girl, with old bloodstains evenly spread across it. I heard my teeth clatter and my heart pound with fear. In the case from 12 years ago, some overlooked questions suddenly appeared like mushrooms after rain. For example, after Xiaohui delivered the meat, why didn't she go home but instead went to the village chief's house? For example, the old beast's limbs weren't agile 12 years ago. If Xiaohui wanted to escape, why couldn't she? Who kept her there after all? And even if she was murdered at the village chief's house, who threw her body into that desolate, foul-smelling ditch? Who was the village chief trying to protect? The answer seemed all too clear. At this moment, a deep voice rang out behind me. "Tsk, I didn't expect you to find it." I suddenly turned around. "Whose clothes are these?" He locked the room door and smiled. But it wasn't a genuine smile. Haven't you already guessed? The alarm bells in my head rang violently. I tried to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Open the door." "I want to go home." "Old fool, it means nothing." He calmly took off his glasses, cleaned them, and put them back on his nose. "Jiang Qing, let's be frank with each other. I pretended to listen attentively. Anyway, the person has been dead for many years. Can you just pretend you didn't discover anything today and never came into this room? Of course. I took a step back, pretending to agree with him, scanning my surroundings for any convenient tools. Unfortunately, I was quickly disappointed. Besides books, there was nothing here. Liar, Shu Ning sneered. You agreed so quickly. Are you stalling for time? I'm telling the truth. The person in charge of this case is your uncle, so I've given up. However, I'm really curious. Why did you kill Xiaohui? Actually, I didn't know exactly who killed her. I was just probing. Shu Ning assessed me from head to toe, seemingly weighing whether my words were true or false. Yang Qing, from the very first day, I wanted to ask you, are you really suffering from amnesia? Or are you just pretending to be foolish? I frowned, utterly bewildered. What do I mean? He snorted. What do I mean? When Xiaohui had her accident, weren't you there too? My head throbbed as if some distant memory was stirring. I rubbed my head vigorously. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand? Then let me help you remember clearly. 12 years ago, I was the first person to take you home. As a result, my grandfather scolded me, calling me a useless blind man. I was severely reprimanded and ran out in anger, only to see Xiaohui again. At first, she didn't want to go home with me. But hearing you were at my house, she followed without hesitation. As he finished speaking, the wall blocking my memories completely collapsed. Finally, I remembered everything. That year, Xiaohui was a beautiful girl. She had big, double-lidded eyes, as cute as a doll. Everyone in the world liked her, but some liked her in ways similar to bacteria in the dark, never seeing the light. For example, that old beast Chu, he sent Zhu Ning to lure Xiaohui. But from a young age, Xu Ning had severe myopia. Even with thick Coke bottle glasses, his vision wasn't very good. He always confused me. And Xiaohui, that day was no different. Not long after Xiaohui left my house, I worried she might be bullied by Zhao, so I also followed her out. Who knew that after a short distance, I would run into Xu Ning. He mistook me for Xiaohui and took me home. My father had saved the village chief's life, and besides, I was not particularly noticeable. So the old beast didn't touch me. He only wanted Xiaohui, and for this he loudly scolded Xu Ning as a useless blind man. Xu Ning, helpless, got up and went out. He then met Xiaohui coming out of my grandmother's house. Isn't that? And so he repeated his old trick. Xiaohui, true to her name, was extremely smart. She didn't go with Xu Ning, only wanting to go home. Xu Ning then said, I'm at his house. Kind Xiaohui then followed him back. Afterward, I was tied up, gagged, and locked in the room next door, forced to witness the entire process. At first, Xu Ning was still in the room watching me, but then he couldn't resist and ran out, joining the old beast's actions. I struggled to no avail, only able to bang my body against the door. As a result, I eventually fainted from exhaustion. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My parents said I suddenly had a high fever and fainted by the roadside, receiving emergency treatment all night at the hospital. I hadn't expected that due to illness, my body had activated a self-protection mechanism, making me forget that period of memory. After Xiaohui's death, I started having frequent nightmares. Perhaps it was an unconscious feeling. The demonic face in my nightmares was identical to Xu Ning's twisted face. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I clenched my fists and shouted at Xu Ning. You humiliated her. Why did you have to kill her? Why? He pouted, his face indifferent. If you don't cut the weeds at the root, do you expect her to go and accuse us? Then I will definitely go and accuse you. His eyes flashed with malice. If Xiaohui hadn't pleaded for you and tried to cooperate in various ways, do you think we would have spared you? But then again, we weren't going to spare you anyway. I just pretended to let you stay outside, planning to deal with her, then deal with you. Who knew you were taken away by someone else? At first, I thought the matter was exposed and was so scared I almost confessed. But then, no one mentioned it. Even now, I don't know who took you away that year. Xu Ning smirked. Or did you pretend to faint and run away yourself? Of course, I didn't run away myself. Zhao took me. One of the nightmares I had as a child was in a dark place where someone was holding me and running. I could feel it. It was a small-framed girl struggling to carry me forward. Before, I always thought this was an absurd, illogical dream. But now, based on the context of the story, it's not hard to connect the dots. This was my memory. Zhao had followed Xu Ning and Xiaohui to the village chief's house, then saw me thrown out, mistook me for Xiaohui, and carried me away. It could be said that Xiaohui's kindness saved my life. Xu Ning attributed everything to luck. He sneered. You are so lucky. If you hadn't had a high fever and forgotten everything, and your parents hadn't quickly taken you elsewhere, you would have already joined Xiaohui. Also, do you think I'd be so kind as to take you home to find books for you? Don't dream. I put something in that glass of water. If you drink it, even if you're a decent woman, you'll become a slut. My heart clenched. I wished I could rush forward and tear him apart. You lunatic. Do you think I'm still a defenseless child like I was then? Even if I drink it, I'll kill your grandfather, that old beast. It's all right, even if your mind isn't blurred yet. I just want to see you and my grandfather fight to the death. It's even better if that old pervert dies. I've been unable to tolerate him for a long time. And you? He smiled, disgustingly and defiantly. I will make you cry and beg me. I curse you to die a horrible death, you beast. I couldn't bear it anymore. Grabbed the book next to me and threw it straight at him. Xu Ning was a man, after all, so his strength was much greater than mine. He quickly pinned me down, his large hands tightening around my neck. You slut! You finally fell into my hands. When you called me a bookworm as a child, I already wanted to kill you. I spat on his face, holding a grudge like that. It seems you've lived a hard life all these years. After all, quite a few people must have cursed you. His face turned vicious, and he slapped me across the face. Shut up. You're just like all those blind women. All of you deserve to die. You're the one who deserves to die. I raised my knee and powerfully jabbed him in the groin. Xu Ning gasped sharply, then slapped me across the face again, roaring furiously. Damn you! You're looking for death. I bit hard into his arm, using all the strength I had ever possessed, ignoring how he struck my head, refusing to let go. I had thought it through. Even if I died now, based on the fresh blood in my mouth and the missing piece of flesh from his arm, my parents would surely avenge me. However, in the end, I didn't die because the room door was opened by someone else. Zhao rushed in, saw the yellow dress on the floor, and froze, muttering, "Xiaohui, I found your clothes." Xu Ning, yes, damn it, it's this fool again. Get out. Quickly get out. Zhao slowly looked up, her dark eyes shining bright. It wasn't my hallucination, but at that moment, she seemed to have regained her sanity. Xu Ning, it was you who killed Xiaohui. So what? You crazy woman, get out. He couldn't finish the rest of his words, because Zhao had twisted Xiaohui's dress into a rope, then wrapped it around Xu Ning's neck and tightened it. Xu Ning was choked so hard his eyes bulged. He had to release his hands that were gripping me, trying to pry the dress off his neck. I took the opportunity to turn off the recording function on my phone. The time for revenge had come. When my parents rushed in, Xu Ning was already dead. The village chief saw this scene and screamed, fainting again. My eyes red. I rushed into my parents' arms. Mom, Dad. Xu Ning was crazy. He wanted to kill me. I quickly recounted the story in brief and urged them to call the police. Zhao reverted to her foolish, drooling self, laughing maniacally in agreement. Call the police. Call the police. Call the police. She still clutched Xiaohui's dress tight. On it, in addition to the original brown bloodstains, there was a fresh red streak. Aunt Zhao, seeing this, panicked and rushed forward, wanting to snatch the clothes. What is this? Throw it away quickly. How many times have I told you, don't cause trouble, but you never listen. Zhao clung to it for dear life. She anxiously cried out, not throwing away Xiaohui's. Auntie, she accidentally hurt Xu Ning to save me. I deliberately emphasized the words accidentally hurt. This was a righteous act. Do you have proof? Of course I do. This time, we have ample evidence. No one can cover up for the murder anymore. The cause of Xiaohui's death will definitely be brought to light. As for Xu Ning, that executioner, who killed Xiaohui over a decade ago, and now extended his evil claws towards me, truly died without exhausting his crime. Zhao's actions were, at most, excessive self-defense. But she is intellectually disabled and cannot distinguish when to stop or continue like a normal person. And at the critical moment, my recording suddenly stopped, so she will be fine. We just need to make a big deal out of it, attract attention from all sides, and then wait for a fair verdict. In the winter of 2024, the verdict was finally delivered. Zhao was acquitted and released for her righteous, innocent act. And for the injustice of being imprisoned in 2011, The government granted her 800,000 yuan in compensation. Xuning's uncle was sentenced to 10 years in prison for abusing his power to cover up crimes and illegally using his position. The village chief was sentenced to 8 years for covering up crimes, bribery, and other offenses. Their families, unable to bear the cold stares of the villagers, all moved elsewhere. Old Manchu's grave was flattened by someone, and his tombstone was thrown into a cesspit. Xiaohui's mother, hearing the verdict, miraculously regained her sanity. She rushed to Xiaohui's burial place. Did you see? Xiaohui, did you see? The murderer has paid the price. All of them have paid the price. Xiaohui's birthday and mine were only 2 days apart. When we caught up, her bare feet were covered in bloodstains. But she didn't care, only clutching Xiaohui's tombstone, sobbing as if to pour out all the humiliation, pain, and discontent of the past 12 years. Xiaohui's father stood beside her, comforting her but unable to hold back his own tears. Looking at their bent backs, my own eyes welled up. No. Welled up. If Xiaohui were still alive, how heartbroken would she be to see this scene? I burned the verdict and placed it before her tombstone. I hoped her soul in heaven could receive this belated justice. Zhao took out that light yellow dress from her embrace and also placed it on the flames. The flames carried the ashes into the air. A gentle, warm breeze brushed across my face. It was as if she was waving goodbye to us. Goodbye, my dearest friend. May your next life be free from sickness, calamity, worry, and may you grow up in peace. And Lily.